I've recently moved into an apartment in the historic part of a medium-sized town. The atmosphere is great, everyone seems friendly, and I get to walk twice a day for about an hour. Even the dogs that, despite feel they need to bark at me, are pretty friendly. The only fly in the ointment is the guy who lives a little ways down from me, who may be a bit too friendly. Not long after I moved in, I started doing my walks, and I would notice the older man sitting out on his porch some evenings. I'd nod at him, he'd nod at me. We might exchange greetings, normal neighbor stuff. A few weeks into this routine, I'm walking back to my apartment, passing his house. He's out there again as usual, but this time calls out to me, stating how he always sees me walking. I respond that, yeah, I do it twice a day, and he invites me to come up and sit on his porch and talk. Now, Mama might have raised me to be polite, but she didn't raise no fool. So I politely declined and continued the short conversation from the grass in front of his house. After a few minutes, I excuse myself and walk back to my apartment. The next few days went on as routine, until one evening he's sitting on his porch, listening to somebody playing electric guitar on a radio. I mean, some really psychedelic stuff. He calls out to me, I stop, and he asks if I like the music. I said, yeah. In truth, it wasn't really my thing, but again, wanted to be polite. So he invites me to come sit up on his porch and listen to it. I again decline, stating I had somewhere to be, and he grouses jokingly that I need to stop making excuses. I again take my leave, feeling even more unnerved than previously. Several more weeks pass and I'm walking by his house when he suddenly bellows, "Boy!" at me from his porch. I stop and turn to face him. I have a thing about people being too familiar with me. I hate being called bud or buddy, so automatically I'm on edge. He asks why he hasn't seen me in the last few days. I explain that I've been walking at the same time every evening. And again, he invites me to come up and sit on his porch. I again decline. After several days of walking, I'm out one morning a couple of days ago, doing my normal rounds, when I pass this guy in sunglasses and a hat mowing his lawn. I squeeze past him and the guy turns and demands to know why I didn't even stop to say hi. Surprise, it's my buddy. I state rightly that I didn't recognize him, and he suddenly changes the subject, asking what I do. I tell him I'm a writer. It's really more of a passion than a simple job, but it's the best answer I had. He says that he's wrote before, but probably never something as creative as I've done, which is mildly creepy considering I never told him I wrote fiction. He then says he wants to read some of my writing, says to bring it up to his porch one day, but helpfully tacking on that if he's not there, I should just knock because he's probably in the basement, where apparently his office is. Thoroughly creeped out by the fact that this dude is ticking all the red flags, I continue my walk. Several hours later, in the evening, I'm walking by his house when I see him come out of his house with his back to me. He hadn't seen me. He's fiddling with something on his porch. I slow down because I'm curious, and because somewhere in my brain, I guess I decided it would be rude not to say hi. He turns around after setting up the speaker again, telling me to come sit down and listen to music. Now I was meeting some friends a few minutes later and thusly declined, citing the fact that they were waiting on me. He immediately half-jokingly accused me of lying and says that I won't get anywhere in life by not telling the truth. Before then, inviting that I hadn't had anything to do all day, I argued that yes, I did. He finally drops the subject and lets me go. I'm walking away from him, and that's when I hear it, his screen door swinging shut. The man had gone out on his porch and set up the music, just to try to get me to go up there with him. That was the last time I went that way. The next morning, changing my pattern entirely to avoid his house. This is where the I need advice portion is. In your humble opinions, am I blowing this out of proportion? Is this just some lonely, retired old man reaching out to the one person that he sees on a regular basis? Or is this somebody with a much darker agenda, trying to get me into a position where I'm easy to incapacitate, be dragged back into his house or office? Either way, I'm avoiding creepy guy because I'm not sure how I feel about someone who keeps trying to get me onto their porch. So about a month back, I posted my experiences walking in the evening, where I was harassed by a kid on a bicycle and ran into a lady wanting me to go get her formula for her baby. Thankfully, I had no problem with the lady. I haven't seen her since. The boy, though, I appear to have made quite an impression on him. After the initial incident, for context, he rode his bike in circles around me, popping on the sidewalk behind me in an attempt to rattle me, then shouted, "Yeah, you better run," when I finally crossed the street into a busy downtown. I didn't see anything of this kid or his absent friend for the better part of a month. Or rather, I don't remember seeing him. He might have been in that same parking lot, but never bothered me. Never occurred to me to pay attention to him. That changed 2 days ago. I was almost done with my evening walk, talking to somebody on the phone as I often do, just to give me something to do while I'm circling the neighborhood. I turned down a street that intersects near where I live, preparing to turn onto my street and go eat some dinner. It's then that I hear the sound coming up from behind me. Bicycle wheels. As I'm walking and talking, this kid, the same one as before, rides his bike up on me on the other side of the street and starts hurling insults, most of which I don't hear. The only one that I do consciously remember being able to decipher was a baffling, "Why are you on the phone?" "Because I've got a social life, guy. What business is it of yours?" As is my wont in those situations, I do my due diligence to ignore the child, assuming that engaging with him in any way is only going to lead to more harassment as he realizes he's going to get a rise out of me. The kid keeps up this barrage of non-stop motor-mouthing unintelligible insults until he finally turns and starts pedaling back. Either because he'd grown tired of trying to get a rise out of somebody that he couldn't, or because I'd crossed and was out of his hunting grounds. I went in, laughed it off, and didn't think much of it. He was annoying, but other than trying to ram me with his bicycle, he seemed harmless. He was just a kid who thought he owned the world because of his age. Again, seemed perfectly harmless. Yesterday goes by without incident. No sight of him, and I managed to walk in peace. Tonight, that almost all changed. I went on my normal walk as per usual, having to amend my path as I have sometimes to avoid large crowds of people and open tables on the road. I'm not the biggest people person in the whole wide world. Crowds of any size tend to unnerve me. I've circled back and started walking by the parking lot, the one that the kid with the bicycle is usually in. No bicycle this time. Nope, just a kid. I'm walking on the sidewalk, aware of this young teenager to my left, keeping an eye on him. I don't trust him. I don't know what he might do if provoked. Almost absently, my eyes wander to the sidewalk in front of me, just to make sure I'm not about to run into a tree or something. My heart drops to my shoes when I see it. The kid has a friend with him. A friend who's currently standing facing me on the far end of the sidewalk that I'm walking down. He's eyeing me, arms crossed. And though I'm not sure, I'm pretty certain he's got a bat in his hands. Momentarily, I consider just walking up to and slipping past this kid, just to see what he'll do. I can be stubborn at times, particularly if I feel like someone's trying to do something to me. Thankfully, logic and safety won out on this one. I quickly slipped off the sidewalk, still walking ahead, but through the grass. keeping an interspersed line of trees between me and the would-be assailants. The first boy, the one in the parking lot, starts walking the same way I am, adjacent to me, matching, step by step. I finally make my way past the boy with the bat, and then turn, going my normal route again. Glancing back, I see both boys eyeing me, watching me as I leave. I don't have any more incidents for the rest of my walk, but I keep my head on a swivel, just in case one of them decides to follow me, especially the one with the bat. So, kid on a bicycle, and your friend, who I hope to never meet again, let's not meet again, ever.